Okay, continuing with Pirkei Avos. Yehuda ben Tabai, Shimon ben Shetach kiblu lehem. So Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shetach were the next generation to give over the Torah. Yehuda ben Tabai Omer. Yehuda ben Tabai says, "Al tas atzmecha ka'orchei hadayanim." You shouldn't make yourself like lawyers, like a lawyer, trying to teach people what to say, to benefit their judgment. We'll explain a little bit more in a moment. And when the litigants are standing before you, they should be in your eyes like evil people. But when they take part from you and they take leave, so you should view them as meritorious, provided that they have accepted the judgment. So let's understand this Mishnah. Simply, this Mishnah is talking to a judge. And a judge has to always remain impartial. And he must be very careful, number one, to be able to look at it objectively and to make sure that he is judging it properly. And number two, to make sure, even if he is, but to make sure that he's also not lending any impression to any favoritism. So it's not only, it's about the accuracy, it's also about the perception as well. He has to be careful on both accounts. So a judge has to be careful. He shouldn't be like a lawyer, telling the person, if you would make this claim, it would benefit you. He shouldn't do that. The Gemara says about Rabbi Yochanan that he was actually helping his relatives, and he reasoned, Mi basarcha al tesale lo tesale. You shouldn't hide away from your relatives. If you see a relative in need, you should help your relative. You have an extra obligation to help your relative. So at first he offered some advice, not to spin the truth, but there are halachos that if a person claims it, or not claims or doesn't claim something, so it affects the way the rules play out. It's all within telling the truth. But you claim one way and this is going to happen. You don't claim this is going to happen. And some paths are maybe more beneficial for the litigant. All with telling the truth. So Rabbi Yochanan had made some suggestions to his relatives, reasoning, Mi basarcha lo tesalem, you may not hide from helping your relatives. You see a relative in need, you got to go the extra mile. But then he said, no, Adam chashuv shiny. A person of prominence is different. One has to be very careful not to lend to any false impression, any favoritism, anything negative, any negative perception. One has to stay far away from. And so a judge would certainly need to be very careful. So this is level number one. Then the Mishnah continues that when everyone is before you, so you should view them as rishoyim, as wicked, because if you're going to think, oh no, these are holy Jews, and these are tzaddikim, so you may believe things that shouldn't be believed, and you may overlook points that shouldn't be overlooked. You have to suspect both of them as having done wrong and trying to get to the bottom of this, and uncover every stone and make sure that the person is held accountable for everything he did. That's how the process of judgment should take place. View them as rishoyim. Don't trust them for a moment, and cross-examine them and flip them upside down until you get the truth, till you feel you have a clear handle on what they're saying and where things stand. But once you've rendered the judgment, so absolutely not. You may not view them as Rishayim. You should view them as Zakoyin, as people that are meritorious, as holy Jews, provided with a stipulation that you see they're accepting the judgment. So people make mistakes, and this person thought the law was on his side. He thought the halacha was on his side. He made a mistake, so now this is where it lands. Mistama, most likely he's done tshuva already. He's a good Jew. He's a good Jew. I have no reason to think otherwise. He came to court. He's settling it. He didn't vandalize. He didn't riot. So he came to court. Court is for settling things. He accepted the ruling. Finished. It got settled. He's not throwing a tantrum. He's accepting it. So he's accepting it. So now I see him again as a holy Jew. A moment ago I viewed him as a Rasha. That was only to make sure I got to the truth. But once I see that he's, following suit, following orders, he's accepting it. So he's a good holy Jew, and he should be viewed and treated that way. Now, so Mishnah is while simply talking to a judge, but we all are judges and judging all the time, and that's an important lesson for us to get to the bottom of things, to view things, in a truthful way, in a rational way, in a logical way, without having what we call negias, any bias, any self-gain swaying our judgment. We make judgments all the time, and our personal gain can easily sway our decisions. You think certainly we see even what's before us with this pandemic. It's not easy to try and just look at the facts. People on all different sides of the spectrum have different agendas. Some people want their businesses open. People in the medical field on the front lines, may feel slighted if people aren't being careful, whereas the people that want their businesses open feel that it's all exaggerated. And you have the Republicans and the Democrats, and everything gets politicized. And one's trying to win elections to have a good economy. The other one's trying to crash the economy. There's all different kinds of agendas. We don't know who means what. We don't know. But we can understand that there's all different kinds of negias, of bias out there, personal interests, and we always go through life, and we have to always be using our seichel, not acting on our emotion. We may have our gut feeling of the matter, but that may not be accurate. Gut feelings may be, nothing but guts. Guts aren't exactly what we would call refined thinking. It's the gut, coming from the gut. So we have to be very careful not to be acting on our emotion, on our bias. A person might feel frustrated or sad or happy or excited or angry. There are all different kinds of emotions in any situation that a person may be experiencing. But we always have to remember that our emotions act quicker than our mind. That's the brilliance of counting to 10 when you're angry, because anger is an emotion. So if you're going to act on your emotion, it's not a wise thing. You're not using your brain. Count to 10, and hopefully your brain will catch up by then and say, you know what, this is not going to be effective. This isn't going to help my situation if I burn down buildings and I just act on my emotion. That may not be the most effective way. So a person has to be very careful not to act on emotions ever, and to use the seichel, our self-interests, our emotions. There's all different kinds of things that can guide us. We have to be very careful to always remain impartial and to be objective, ask other people on the other side, to gain a fair and balanced opinion and decision, so that we're properly guided with everything we do. We're always making decisions every time we do anything in life. We're always guided by self-interest, and we have to be very careful to remain impartial, trying to get to the truth of the matter, and never, not only to get to the truth of the matter, but also ourselves, we have to make sure that we are not lending to an impression that it looks like we're acting in a way that we are only doing something to be self-serving. People may accuse us of things. We have to be very careful to be free of suspicion as well as the judge does. We have to always go through life not only being impartial, but we don't want to ever be viewed as acting upon our interests either. Even if it's not the truth, we have to, there's a mitzvah in the Torah, v'hiyisim nekiyim, that you should always be clean. Always try and give a clean impression, and do one's best to always be viewed in a positive light. Okay.